Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an absolutely fantastic day, and without any further ado, let's jump right into it. This was a very popular piece of news as people think that something could actually come from this. Grayscale is once again in the news, and they have told the Securities and Exchange Commission they have no legal reasoning left behind to block the conversion of Grayscale's flagship Bitcoin fund to a spot exchange traded fund or an ETF. So, for those of you who missed it, I assume 90% of you were here for it. Grayscale won their lawsuit against the US SEC, who has rejected every single proposal for a Bitcoin ETF since around like 1774 or something like that. On top of that, Grayscale has a Bitcoin trust. They've been trying to change their Bitcoin trust into a Bitcoin ETF because it's basically the exact same thing except for the letters ETF. It is literally the exact same thing. Upon winning the lawsuit, it was believed that, at least a day or two after, that we would get some kind, I think maybe 3 days after actually, that we would get some kind of good news from the US SEC because they had to review seven different applications for a spot Bitcoin ETF. They pushed that back once again, for those of you who missed that, until the 17th of October. That is when they will give the final yay or nay to even BlackRock and Fidelity. Since then, Grayscale has grown relatively impatient, more impatient than they've ever been. This could be because, and this is a, grain of salt kind of moment, after the pushback of dates for the 17th of October for the other 7 potential Bitcoin spot ETFs, we received news from JP Morgan Chase, Bloomberg, and some other major analytical firm that they all collectively think, whether this actually happens or not, I don't know, they all collectively think that the SEC will approve all 7 of these at the exact same time, roughly around the middle of October, as a way to kind of level out the playing field. The idea being, they say, if you give one company a leg up and they get it first, they therefore then become the most popular. An easy way to make sure that there's a relatively leveled playing field and or not as much manipulation as there could be, would be to actually have 7 of them at the exact same time, and therefore they're competing against each other, but they also lower fees and make sure that it's easier to access as opposed to making it more rigid and or only for institutions, what have you. Now, Grayscale has come forward and they're basically, a lot of the news articles sounded a bit like aggressive. It seems as if the Grayscale and their lawyers are basically telling the SEC at this point, get it together, transfer our fund into an ETF so we can all kind of go home. What I feel like, now this is a brick of salt, is that a thing? It feels like the momentum that we've been getting over the last 2 weeks has kind of had the same kind of energy floating around it. A lot of people and institutions believe that a Bitcoin ETF is literally around the corner. The other company that we heard from, the other analytics firm, said that they believe that this year there is a 75% chance of a Bitcoin ETF, and they put it next year at 95%. Everyone's saying there's no legal basis for them to be able to say no anymore. The way that I'm kind of viewing it, and this is just me, but it does make a lot of sense, it feels like, based off of the news that's been floating around, and I assume Grayscale has their own connections behind the scenes and people who they're talking to, that we might, brick of salt, that we might actually get a Bitcoin ETF sometime in October, and Grayscale knows that, and they want to be first before everyone else. You get what I'm saying? The amount of energy that Grayscale has been putting into all of this the last couple of months has been a bit, the word's not cringy. Remember all the other times we were going through the other videos in the last 30-day period and Grayscale was constantly in the news, but it was always like, we deserve this. And they were going on TV like this kind of feeling. I think that they probably are of the same mindset as many other people and think that because that BlackRock is BlackRock, that they will get approved. But as Grayscale technically has been in the cryptocurrency space for more years than them and already has something that is equivalent to an ETF, except it's not tradable on stock exchanges, I feel like they want to make sure that they kind of get it first, if you catch my drift. On the 5th of September, Grayscale's lawyers sent a letter to the SEC requesting that they meet to discuss the next steps following the regulator's court loss regarding the conversion of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust into a Bitcoin ETF. I don't know if that's going to work. The SEC seems pretty steadfast in how they've been doing stuff. And I think sending them a letter basically telling them that they lost a lawsuit, hey, let's discuss this and give us exactly what we want because you lost, I don't know if that's going to work. They said, and I quote, "Now that the Court of Appeals has spoken, there is no available rationale that would distinguish a Bitcoin futures ETP from a spot Bitcoin ETP that is exchange-traded product under the legal analysis previously adopted by the Commission in rejecting Bitcoin exchange-traded products." Something is bubbling. It's so difficult. It's so very difficult to not, I don't want to use the term get my hopes up. Something is happening behind the scenes that we are not privy to. Me, you, us, we are not in these rooms. We are not in these discussions. We get the news that X, Y, and Z has happened. Grayscale's movements tell me something big is going to take place, and they're trying to be the first mover in all of this. Something is, I was discussing, hello friend, if you're watching, had dinner the other day. And we were discussing with this woman sitting next to us who was completely in our business. It was so obvious. She was sitting by herself. Not that that's a bad thing, but it was more of you could tell she was just listening as we were talking about the cryptocurrency market and money and stuff like that. And we were discussing the actual implications of how early the bull run would skyrocket if we had an early Bitcoin ETF. Not even saying, if the halving happens in April, and we end up getting a Bitcoin ETF sometime in May, June, or July, it'll only help prices move up. But if we get October, November, December, January, February, March, April, a 7-month upward momentum of movement in prices, this is where we're getting all those people speculating that if we got a Bitcoin ETF, we'd be over 100K by the time we had the halving. This was very popular news. Everyone's discussing the idea of a Bitcoin ETF. Understand my position from this. I keep trying not to get my hopes up because I've seen the hype before of people expecting that there's going to be the approval of a Bitcoin ETF. Months go by, we get a rejection. Everyone is kind of deflated for a couple of months until some other really big news comes out. I go over news daily. You have to understand what that does to my mindset. When I talk about why Bitcoin is number one and will remain number one, it's the avalanche of news that I'm constantly getting on a daily basis. It's not just one website. It's thousands of websites cementing the same things that I've been saying over the years. Same exact thing with the massive amount of news about Ethereum, about XRP, what have you. And when I look at the news every single day and only see these huge institutions, banks, government members talking about, and also for those of you who missed it, the previous head of the SEC said, just allow one through. I see no reason at this point to not allow one. It kind of all points to the same road, that there's going to be an ETF that is going to be approved. But we've been there before, and the SEC has rejected them. So it's difficult not to get my hopes up because the market would skyrocket. You don't understand how high, the momentum in the market would be egregious before we even have the actual halving. So it's very exciting. But then you remember Gary Gensler and the SEC, and it kind of You're like, oh, okay, maybe let me not try and be as excited as I potentially could be. Very popular news. It's all over the place. Breaking: Grayscale pressures SEC for approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF. Grayscale lawyers seek SEC to discuss greenlighting spot Bitcoin ETF. Is this also one as well? Yep. Grayscale urges SEC to approve GBTC conversion to Bitcoin ETFs. They said on Twitter, "Today, our legal team and counsel at Davis Polk and Wardwell and Munger Tolles," that's a long name. Jeez, whoa, that's a long name. Their legal team is called Counsel at David Polk and Wardwell and Munger Tolles and Olson. Okay, delivered a letter to the SEC with important information to consider as it decides on the next steps for Grayscale's Bitcoin trust. I've said it years ago, we should have had a Bitcoin ETF back in 1992. Like this should not be a discussion as to if we should be getting one or not. It's more of a high levels of corruption. I will tell you this now. If BlackRock is rejected, we're in the twilight zone. Something is wrong. We're in some really weird multiverse time frame because they're BlackRock. But we'll see what happens. We only have a couple of weeks left. That's the Grayscale's lawyers. A lot of names are basically telling the SEC to allow one through. This leads me to believe something is happening behind the scenes. People are having discussions that we can't completely conceptualize. And yeah, let's move on. Also in very popular news, like I think I get it, but it's also like, yay! Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, has announced they will be adding new trading pairs, including new trading pairs for XRP and for Dogecoin, and they will be paired with something called the First Digital USD or FDUSD. The last week, there's like a lot of really weird movement when it came to Binance's US dollar. I don't think I had it in any video because it was just weird and odd speculation that allegedly, apparently, Binance might be winding down operations of their Binance US dollar, as it was mentioned that I think Paxos, who I think is one of the companies who's minting them, apparently was also slowing down as well. There were a bunch of coins that were also unlisted from trading pairs from Binance's US dollar as well. Also didn't have it in the video because it was coins you've never heard of. It's not pertinent to the actual news that we've been constantly going over. About 3 days ago, something called First Digital USD began to pop up in the news a lot. And there have been a lot of cryptocurrency exchanges who've been mentioning it, that they're listing it, that it's now on their website or whatever the actual case might be. And now Binance has begun to list and pair a bunch of altcoins to this new stable coin as well. And I think I found out the reason, but we'll see in a little bit. The announcement comes alongside the addition of other trading pairs for something called Tomo. It is literally TOMO. Another coin called Try. And another one called Unfi. Unfi? Who knows? Introduced in June of this year, FDUSD is a reserve-backed stablecoin issued by FD121 Limited, a subsidiary of Hong Kong-based financial firm First Digital Limited. You remember what happened in June in Hong Kong? They got their cryptocurrency regulations. Cryptocurrencies became legal in Hong Kong at the middle or beginning of June, and a number of companies began to launch and get regulatory approval to be able to do cryptocurrency things within the space. This is also roughly around the same exact time, like on the screen, where FD121 Limited released their own stablecoin. There's a lot of talk, and has been for a while, about exactly how big the market because of Hong Kong is going to be. Clearly, this is some kind of partnership that's happening behind the scenes. A lot of people are estimating that once again, Hong Kong is going to be a major player in the space. There must be something going on where they would even think of listing this coin and begin to start pairing coins to it as well, what have you. The stablecoin operates on both Ethereum and also on Binance's chain as well. Relatively-esque popular news depending on where you were looking. A lot of websites only mentioned that it was being paired with XRP. A lot of websites only mentioned it was being paired with Dogecoin and a couple of other coins, but what have you. The word XRP was in there. It made it to the top of popular news. That's the way that the cryptocurrency space works. Dogecoin is also in there, so of course it ends up being popular. I think what will solidify it for me is if by the end of this year, every stablecoin is paired, or if this stablecoin is paired to every altcoin that we have out there. Because it seems random, but I assume this has been going on for quite some time. Who knows exactly what the regulatory landscape is or why they would be potentially winding down Binance's US dollar. It's always something. We're not in those companies, so we can't exactly say. That's the Binance has added a new stablecoin, and they have now paired it with XRP and with Dogecoin and a number of other coins as well. And yeah. Let's move on. Also in the forever news, according to financial research firm Bernstein or Bernstein, depending on how you pronounce it, the cryptocurrency market, led by Bitcoin, is poised for an unprecedented rally. Yep. The firm suggests, here we go, that last week's crucial court decision favoring Grayscale in the lawsuit against the US SEC has set the stage for an upswing. This is now the fifth or sixth analytics firm who has come forward, or research firm, financial firm, what have you, coming forward talking about that they think that something big is going to happen. I think we all should understand the gravity of the situation of Grayscale actually winning their lawsuit. But I wasn't expecting so many companies, banks, coming out of the woodworks, all talking about that this is going to lead to something massive. In my mind, I was like, okay, cool. Clearly, the SEC now is required to once again look at the paperwork, and which would be crazy if they reject it all over. Crazy if they end up rejecting it. However, this is why I said earlier, I feel like something is afoot. There's far too much gravity simply around this Grayscale win, because it does not indicate that the SEC is going to overlook their previous decision and or look at the same paperwork and go, that's where we were wrong. But it's around 6 weeks. That's the time period that everyone thinks that there's going to be a physical Bitcoin ETF. There's not much to dig into in this story. It's more of this is yet another company. This also made relatively popular news as far as people think that this could be leading to something, as every indicator from these people is pointing to the fact that they believe that there's going to be some type of a major announcement. I mean, Grayscale also telling the SEC to approve their thing. By the 19th of October, it'll be crystal clear for us whether there is a Bitcoin ETF or not, but the energy's definitely there. And I'm finding a lot of the movements in the market and also some whale news that we're getting to be quite fascinating. That's the Bernstein financial research firm. Says that the market's going to be jumping relatively soon. A lot of people have been mentioning that because the market has been down for so long, apparently, this is the longest that we've ever been down. You can find the charts. I don't know exactly what they're called, but they have a chart where they show we were in the red for 112 days. The market was in the red for 214 days. Apparently, we're like 500 days now. This is the longest bear trend market thing that we've ever had. And analysts normally say that the longer a downtrend occurs, the longer the actual bull run ends up taking place. I mean, by that metric, we should have a bull run for the next 4 years, and if that's the case. Alrighty. Let's move on. In a very 2018-2019 Coinbase move, Coinbase has unveiled a brand new crypto lending service specifically for those who are rich and for those who are within the United States. The move comes as Coinbase aims to fill the void, wink, left by the setbacks experienced from firms like Genesis and BlockFi. Yes, I'm sure their main goal is they want to fill the void to make sure that everyone has access to these financial instruments, as opposed to like Coinbase has found another way to try and make money, as every other business will, and therefore this is why they're actually launching it. I still personally don't believe the entire Genesis, BlockFi, Alameda, FTX thing. It's very fishy. It's all very, very, very fishy. Remember when those companies collapsed and everyone pounced and was trying to buy them the week after? And we got news this week. You can find that this was back when that happened. There was some company, apparently, allegedly, they had been in talks with another company to sell for several $1 billion, like I think $15-20 billion. The companies collapsed, and I think they were then bought up for like $200 million. Very, very, very big difference. So back in good old 2018 and 19, Coinbase began to release a number of products on their website that were exclusively for institutional investors. You could not do them unless you had to have a certain net worth, basically, to be able to use these products. I assume that, for those of you who don't know, and this is actually kind of terrible, the way that the world works and the way that finance works is based off of debt. Nearly everything that we do, that we're experiencing, the way that, especially a lot of the system within the United States, it has to do with debt, issuing debt, taking out debt, getting people in debt, and then you basically have them in your clutches over the course of a 30 to 40 year period. I watch a lot of financial documentaries, as I've mentioned before, and there are a lot of economic trends that people believe are going to be at the forefront of the middle of this century. And one of them is like an everlasting debt loop, which we are beginning to see around the world. If you ever get a chance to watch a debt documentary about the United States and also like in South Korea, it's rough. RUFF. It is rough, like what's actually happening out there. The idea is, as a company or a bank or an institution, you want to get someone in debt forever. If you can have them pay you a lump sum, that's not good enough. If you can stretch out payments over the course of a 5-year period, well, therefore you make money as that company for 5 years. And over the course of those 5 years, that person is more likely to go back to the website to look for something else to buy or to have on loan, which is a very big thing. Watch out for this as well, for those of you who haven't been paying attention. There are a number of companies who are launching to try and get people to rent stuff as opposed to actually buying it. They tout it as some sort of way of saying, well, you don't have to buy your speaker or your bed anymore. You can simply rent it. You're on contract with us for 3, 4, 5 years, and when you get tired of that one, you rent another one through us. This is a way of making sure that you have these clients forever. Anyway, bringing it on back to the idea of crypto lending. Online lending as a business has exploded in the last 5 to 10 years because we once again work in a world where people are told to and incentivized to take out debt in some sort of way. So the idea would be that you'd be able to lend out your money in exchange for giving it to someone else, and you would get a return on it. So you're basically finding a way to take advantage of people who are forced to get into debt to be able to pay off some of their bills, but this is how you make money from it. Same exact thing with crypto lending. The idea would be you would lend out your crypto to other people who want to use it for whatever reason. The vast majority of people say like cryptocurrency trading, what have you. But a lot of people, hear me out, a lot of people who get into debt because of cryptocurrencies are already further in debt from something else. And it's just a hole that kind of gets dug out forever. I'm telling you, watch documentaries on debt and the idea like of it. Once again, for those of you who missed other videos or missed what's happening in the world, The future is not very bright for people who don't have assets. And that is to say, I would implore you, if at any point you are able to do so, to not get like destructively in debt. There's a difference between you having a mortgage that is $1,500 per month on a fixed 15-year mortgage and you being like $12,000 in debt a month. There's a huge gigantic difference, but the way that this system is set up, the way that banks are set up, is to make sure that you are in debt. This is why they keep pushing credit cards on you. This is also why we have crypto. It's a never-ending story when it comes to the reasons why Bitcoin exists. Banks are able to create money out of thin air, and we, the public, have no access to exactly how it's happening. We don't know full transparency as to what's going on. That's why it's important that we know when Bitcoin has another halving. It is public knowledge. We can all see it happening. We can see in real time as Bitcoin are being created. We know how many there are, however many there will ever be. You cannot lie to me and tell me, I have 171 Bitcoin, show me. You can't lie about it. It's all transparent, and this is why just pay attention to a lot of stuff that's happening, because even a lot of cryptocurrency companies as well, they're so closely imitating the traditional financial system now. You've heard my rants before. It's getting very scary, and they're doing it under the premise of decentralization in like a freer crypto world. They don't care about us. They care about their own money. Coinbase's crypto lending program was announced discreetly through a filing with the US SEC on the 1st of September. The filing indicates that Coinbase has sought exemptions for the service under an existing subsidiary. They tried to name it Coinbase Credit Inc. Coinbase's, also something else, and also Coinbase's CFO, Alizia Haas, as a related individual. So this is only something for institutional investors, but this was very, very popular news. The idea is that this might eventually roll out to everyday normal people. I myself do not like debt, so this is a lot of red flags. And I will mention very quickly, please, for the love of heaven, do not get into debt for this market. I've been here multiple cycles. I've seen what happens, and I've seen when people do it. It never turns out well, so please protect yourself and your money. It's your money. You worked hard for it. I do hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.